Good morning, brothers and sisters. This is Anthony Nayagan. Today's subject is rather personal, and that is about why do we fail in life. And particularly, why some intellectually brilliant people fail in life. Why do several great visionaries turn out financially poor, mentally sick, and worse? Why do several great scientists, inventors turn out socially inept? See, my personal life is not an exception to this. I am a failure in many areas in my life. Financially, relationship-wise, I have failed. And I have written about it in my book, Supreme Realization. But nonetheless, today is an in-depth look into why does this happen, and does spirituality offer a solution to this? See, in addition to psychology, is there a spiritual answer to this question? Why do great men like Einstein, Tesla, and numerous others turn out to be socially, financially inept? I have been contemplating and praying for clarity, especially for myself, and the answer is yes. See, psychotherapy is learning about our past, identify turning points in our lives that potentially affect our well-being. In a spiritual context, especially for Christians, this involves the inner wounds, habitual sins, irreversible remorses such as abortions, rapes, murders, child molestations, incest, and there are so many others. Failures in life, sins of omissions. See, these are events in our past that cannot be reversed or easily sidelined. And these events affect our present moment. See, spirituality is about the present moment. Our past memories are not the only thing that affect our present moment. We also have our own set of illusions. In the Bible, it is known as the vanities. These are attachments to our past. Like, for instance, financial success, academic success, socio-political success, our family, our history, our inheritance, our properties. See, psychology does not consider these as damaging, but spirituality does. See, holding on to our past is a form of attachment. Attachments, we need to consider what attachments are. Is having attachments altogether wrong? No, I don't think so. But you see, the question is whether we need to be attached to the golden eggs or the goose that lays the golden eggs. See, if our attachments to the golden eggs becomes more forceful in our lives, we begin to neglect the goose that lays the golden eggs. So, in our priorities of attachments, what is at the top? That's the question. See, attachments to events in the future also affects our present moment. See, this is generally the problems with great abstract minds, scientists, inventors, artists, poets, writers, mathematicians. Even spiritual seekers fall into this trap. I also fall into this category. See, for such people, their mind itself is their greatest attachment. Our mind is their vanity. Our mind is their illusion. Our mind is their Maya. See, in our imaginations and ideas about the future, we altogether abandon the present moment reality. For us, our faith, our prayers, our contemplation, our meditation, all of these are focused on the future. Therefore, even our faith, prayers, contemplation, meditation turn out to be attachments, vanities, illusions, or Maya. Psychotherapy can do nothing to help us here. Spiritual graces are the only hope. Brothers and sisters, Christianity is minimum help. Our church is about the past, traditions, historical Christ, words spoken thousands of years ago. It is about theology and philosophy about how the past affect our future. See, when Pope Francis said a religion without mystics is only a philosophy, it is something to think about. See, mystics in Christianity are the spiritually evolving people. Essentially, Christianity has evolved without them since the 4th century after the takeover of Emperor Constantine to institutionalize the church. After that, the mystical theology is sidelined, and ever since we have been evolving as a religion which is philosophy. The church is also about the future. Hell, purgatory, and kingdom after we die. I mean, these are so far into the future, it's even after we die. The church is very little about our present moment, except self-governance imposed by fear, sin, morality, and the awareness of either eternal life or eternal damnation. And that is to manage our present moment to ensure how our future turns out, especially after we die. This is philosophy without spirituality. This may seem far-fetched, but not when I daily deal with people who are so afraid of God that their hope in life are my prayers and some words that give them some hope for a future, particularly after they die. This is really sad. Anyway, our quest is why some intellectually brilliant people fail in life. So there is the word in Proverbs that says, the sluggard buries a hand in the dish and will not even bring it back to the mouth. We are so engrossed in the potential satisfaction and benefits in the future about the dish, even the thought that the food must be eaten in the present moment does not enter our minds. See, our prayers and contemplation evolve around how the benefits would be derived. Everything we do in the present moment is engrossed in deferred benefits, not because of hope in our capabilities, but hope in a dream or a divine providence that would come to realization and benefit somewhere in the future. Brothers and sisters, we have read quotes, we dream anyway, might as well dream big. Dreams don't do anything. It's what we do in the present moment matters the most. In other words, what needs to be done in the present moment for the present moment should never escape our existential realities. Attachments to faith, hope, and prayers should also be focused in the present moment reality. This reminds me of a Chinese proverb. It says, to know that you don't know is the best. To know that you don't know is the best. To imagine to know what you do not know is a disease. Most of all, we need to realize how what we know would be beneficial in the future. We don't know that. It is only an imagination. It is only a dream. Perhaps a calculated imagination or a dream. Still, it is a dream. It is an imagination. But what we do in the present moment, that's what matters. See, the parable of the sower, which is in Matthew chapter 13, it is about the Word of God and deep-rooted faith in the wisdom of God. But it is also about the survival in the present moment. See, God created and sustains us. This means when we were created, all of us were thrown on good soil. As Christians, all of us must have deep-rooted faith in the wisdom of God. But that is not enough. We must also survive, developing in us healthy roots that go into the soil and draw healthy nutrients for ourselves. Remember one thing, in God's creations, we draw what we need. See, good soil does not pump nutrients into the good seeds. Good seeds must develop the faculties to draw healthy nutrients for themselves. See, the answer and the solution is in the fully living in the present moment. Rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own fruits. The sun does not shine on itself. And the flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Yet, the river has to flow in the present moment. Whether or not the trees eat their own fruits, they must draw nutrients from the soil to sustain themselves. And the flowers must draw nutrients from the tree to sustain themselves. Unless there is sustenance, there is no giving. Living for others is the rule of nature. But life is better when we are happy, much better when others are happy because of us. Unless the life, living, and survival in the present moment is preserved, living for others is totally mute, whether it is in the present moment or a moment in the future. There is a word in Matthew 26:41. It says, "Stay awake and pray that thou may not come into the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." Certainly, the relevance to the willingness of our soul to resist ourselves from sinning and the propensity to sin draws much attention in literal translations. I don't dispute that. But words in the Bible are not static. Words are alive. It means words have consciousness of their own. Therefore, words can communicate to our souls in a variety of ways. We must remain open and receptive to such communications. There is also a mystical interpretation to these words, and that is our wisdom is communicating to us pertinent messages for our well-being and our material being is not being received by our material being, by our flesh. Therefore, we are not surviving in the present moment. See, there is an order in which God communicates to us. Wisdom is the infinite and all-knowing. Knowledge is limited and perceptive. Wisdom communicates to our knowledge communicates to our resolve. The resolve translates the communicated knowledge into actionable emotions. Actionable emotions translates as action items that contains divine emotions derived from wisdom. These actionable items are intended for our sustenance and our material well-being, as well as the glory of God and the mighty works in the universe that involves our actions in the present moment. This is how we benefit and the universe benefits. There is a Hindu mystic, his name is Satpal Maharaj. He said these things, and I'm sort of reversing it in order. And what he said is, if knowledge does not know you, you are nothing. If you do not practice knowledge, then knowledge does not know you. If you do not understand knowledge, then the knowledge will also not understand you. If I were to add to this, if our knowledge does not understand knowing, then wisdom will fail to communicate with our knowledge. When that happens, even the powers of God become ineffective in our lives. God himself is frustrated with us. He loves us. He still has hope in us. but he is not deriving anything from us. That's how it turns out. See, one of my great friends told me once, make sure you remain a good canvas. If you turn out to be a dilapidated canvas, even God cannot draw his painting he intends on you. So therefore, the answer is one of survival that involves effective application of knowledge in the present moment. I'm going to quote something, and he is one of my favorite poets from India, and he is a Hindu mystique and a freedom fighter during Mahatma Gandhi. See, no matter how I try to translate his poetry, I could not justify my translations because, see, there is something about his poetry. Every word, every stanza is filled with divine emotions. Unless you feel those emotions, it really cannot be justifiably translated. So I searched the internet for many hours to come up with a translation that sort of communicates, and here it is. It says, Goddess Shakti, Shiva's half, that means the goddess of the universe. You tell me, is this right? You created me with great wisdom, but not with power and resolve. See how he laments over the inadequacies of the resolve associated with his material being. I mean, this is only a translated version. But if you really comprehend the divine emotions in this poetry, in this stanza, it is absolutely amazing. See, the Shakti, which is the goddess of the universe, in Hinduism, she has a string instrument in her hands. And what he laments is, oh, the goddess of universes, you created the most incredible string instrument, yet you threw it in the dust and let it rot. Why? That was how he laments. Then he goes on to say, grant me strength to use my skills for the betterment of the world. Would you rather make me live as a burden to this world without your resolve in me? Like a ball that gets propelled with a forceful shot, let my body be agile and act upon your wisdom. See, the great geniuses, they are so self-absorbed, so much so into the future that they neglect all communications from wisdom to the knowledge. These knowledge of love from God that specifically instructs them to take better care of themselves. In this misfire of divine love, they haven't learned to receive love. invariably they have evolved not as receptive to love. They cherish attention they receive from admirers of their perceptive knowledge. It only boosts their egos. Without love and trust of a fellow being, they evolve as socially inept. In all of these evolutions, the lesson we must learn is develop the realization to know that you don't know is the best. To imagine to know what we don't know is a disease. Simply because even great geniuses must learn to source from the wisdom of God. Go beyond relying on their perceptive knowledge and reach out to the source of all knowing. I'm going to repeat a prayer of the same poet I mentioned earlier. His name is Bharati. I'll give you the literal translation of it without going too much into the divine emotions of it. But this prayer, it makes so much sense. Just listen to it. He prays for clarity in thinking with uncluttered knowledge, strength of mind that endures hardship, abundance of compassion that flows from the heart, complete control over our senses, contemplation of your divine grace, selfless actions. Bestow upon me these graces, O Supreme Being, who, without any specific form or attribute, pervades all that is in the universe. What an awesome prayer. Brothers and sisters, I want to finish this discussion with an end note about the spiritually enlightened beings. See, spiritual enlightenment is impossible where there is no love. Even when they appear unkind and unloving at times, these are manifestations to express a strong resolve. For instance, when Jesus drove away the merchants from the temple, he was not unloving. His actions were manifestations to express a strong resolve. See, regardless, they are extraordinarily loving. The vast majority of them are not interested in acquiring wealth unless it funnels enterprises of charity. Many of them are socially inept, not because they are unloving, but they are detached. Therefore, although the spiritually enlightened beings appear geniuses, what they have is not perceptive knowledge. We must understand this. If you ask them to repeat something they said just a few minutes ago, they will not be able to do it. They are so engrossed in the present moment that they would not even remember what they said a minute or two ago. In them, knowing of the divine wisdom and divine emotions directly communicates with their resolve. Their knowledge has very little to do with their expressions. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Thank you so much for listening. God bless you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask and comment on the video. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much. God bless you.